Good afternoon, everyone. You're still smiling? It's a long day, I know. I hope that you've had a great time so far. Yes, good. Thank you. So I am excited to introduce our keynote speaker for the afternoon, Dr. Steve Gladys, a leadership speaker, author, and executive coach. Dr. Steve Gladys is an authority on the subject of leadership. He's CEO of Steve Gladys Leadership Partners, a leadership development company, and is the author of 22 books on leadership. I don't even know how he has time. He's probably writing another book upstairs in between on leadership, and is a professor at George Mason University in the Mason Institute for Leadership Excellence. He works with businesses, associations, and U.S. government agencies, and he speaks regularly at conferences and corporate gatherings. And he's a former faculty member at UVA. Dr. Gladys served as an FBI special agent and was a decorated officer in the U.S. Marine Corps. His company donates a significant portion of their corporate profits back to the community, and I will say he was generous enough to be here pro bono today, and we're very grateful for that. His latest books, Leading Well, Becoming a Mindful Leader, Coach, Positive Leadership, The Game Changer at Work, Smile, Breathe, Listen, The 3 Mindful Acts for Leaders, and Solving the Innovation Mystery are all available on Amazon. And for the interest of time today, he's not going to have, we won't be able to have a Q&A, but he will be available the rest of the afternoon and through the reception this evening to answer any questions you may have. So with that, I turn it over to Steve.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Listen, I'm more excited about this than you. I can tell you that right now. Being back at Mary Washington is like coming home to me. It really is. It really is. I mean, Don and I have been associated with it since forever. I mean, since forever, right? Since Dirk was born. I dated here extensively when I was going. But I ended up marrying Donna, so I married, let me tell you something, we've been married 46 years, and it has been unbelievably good, so kudos to her. It's all because of her. Okay, so we're going to have some fun this afternoon. We've only got an hour. This is a 3-hour presentation. We're going to kind of trim it. That's why we're not going to take questions today. And they're going to video record it as well. So I'll be around all night. So if any questions that you have individually, and you can always text or email me, and I'll give you that information. I'm happy to do that. So let's stand up for a second. Okay, we're going to do a little aerobics first, okay? All right, little leadership aerobics. So yeah, here we go. So you don't hurt each other. In the military, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, whenever a commander is giving some information out and he wants to find out whether people actually heard him and understood him, instead of saying, "Can I get an amen?" he'll say, "Can I get a hoo-ah?" All right? Remember, ever see Scent of a Woman? Al Pacino with that? Yeah, there you go. Hoo-ah. So I'm going to teach you how to do that, because I'm going to use that throughout the thing to make sure, throughout the presentation, make sure you actually know how to do it, all right? So it's 2 words. It's the word who and the word ah. Now, the word who is not the wimpy, like, who left the refrigerator open, or whose underwear's on the floor. This is feeling autobiographical, Donna. It's more like that song, who let the dogs out? It's that kind of who from the stomach, okay? So on 3, I just want you to say the word who. On 3. 1, 2, 3, who. Okay. Second word, let's do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, who. All right. You're good. You're loud. No, I like that. No, I've met her before. Second word is the word ah. When you say the word ah, you don't say I don't know what I'm going to say next. It's more like you just mowed the lawn, you have a drink of beer or whatever you may be drinking, and you go, ah. It's kind of an ah. I feel like a choir director when I do this one. Okay, so on 3, we're just going to say ah. 1, 2, 3, ah. 1, 2, 3, ah. Okay, put them together, and it's hoo-ah. Hoo-ah. All right, on 3, 1, 2, 3, hoo-ah. 1, 2, 3, hoo-ah. Perfect. I did a bunch of business people yesterday. They screwed it all up. So when we go on a mission, the last thing you do before you go on a mission is the commander will say, give me a hoo-ah, and they'll do hoo-ah 3 times, and they'll pump their arm in the air. So it's hoo-ah, hoo-ah, hoo-ah. Please don't pump your arm this way. we get OSHA violations all the time. So on 3, 1, 2, 3, hoo-ah, hoo-ah, hoo-ah. Give yourselves a round of applause and have a seat. All right. You have a score sheet in front of you. We're gonna cut through all those numbers. If you didn't get a score sheet, they've got one out there for you. You can grab one. Mark's got them. All right. So let's just say I said something, and I'll say, "Can I get a hoo-ah?" And you'll say, "Hoo-ah." Hoo-ah. There you go. Good. All right. So first exercise for you. I want you to take a second, and I want you to think about the best leader you have ever had in your life. I don't care if it's somebody you work for in high school, maybe at McDonald's, or a manager you work for in your first job. I want you to think about that person right now. Bring that person up in your brain. And then I want you to write down 3 words about how that leader made you feel. How did that leader make you feel? Write down 3 words that describe how that leader made you feel. Whoever it was, maybe some of you interned for, could be anybody. Teacher that you had in class. How did that leader make you feel? And then once you've done that, turn to somebody next to you and share that list with them. They don't have to be the same. They don't have to agree. Just share that list with each other. Oops. Okay, so you had a chance to, how many of you, I'll just throw some words to you. How many of you had the word or something like the word valued? Anybody have valued? Yeah. How many had something like respected or respect? A lot of, yeah. How about words like understood? Understood. What are some of the other words you had? Huh?
My 3 words were empowered.
No, just one.
Just one, then empowered.
Empowered. Anybody else have empowered? Yeah, look at how many people had it. Give me another one. Just one word you had. Yeah. Appreciated. A lot of appreciates. Yeah. In fact, there's some research around just saying the word appreciated and what an impact that has on people. It has actually more impact on people than money. Just the word appreciated. Any other words? Yeah. Huh? Welcomed. Smart. Challenged. Capable. All those words that you said. Now, I was just using a word that we used with that I got at a. I think it was the CIA group or whatever group that we did last. They're always the list is always the same. It never varies. It never varies whenever you ask that question, because we all know what a good leader is. A good leader is a positive. I never get the word he belittled me. He micromanaged me. He put me down. You never get that ever, because we sort of know that good leaders have a kind of a positive, what we call a positive valence, don't we? Can I get a hoo-ah? Hoo-ah. Okay. So. Let me tell you about my best boss, okay? My best boss was a guy named Phil. Phil was the head of the Washington field. He was an assistant agent in charge of the Washington field office of the FBI. I worked for him for 4 years, and my job was I was the head of counterterrorism in Washington, D.C. So anything in Washington, D.C. that blew up or was going to blow up or whatever was my responsibility. Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, and Southern Maryland. That was my territory. was the hardest job I've ever had. I was out of the house a lot. It was just a very, very difficult job. But Phil was the kind of guy that when things went well, he was there to celebrate with you. The guy knew how to celebrate. A lot of leaders don't know how to, frankly, celebrate. You do one thing and you do it well, and they say, okay, what's the next thing? He knew how to celebrate. He was a fun guy. He also knew how to mourn. He was always there with you when you had people get hurt, when people went in the hospital, things got ugly. He was always there. He's the kind of guy that had your back all the time. Had you when you were winning, had you when you were losing, which is the perfect kind of guy. We all loved Phil. Everybody would have taken a bullet, literally, for Phil. Unfortunately, or fortunately for Phil, he gets promoted to agent in charge of this big field office, and everybody is ecstatically happy for a guy getting promoted who deserves to get promoted. Can I get a hoo-wah? Hoo-wah! You always want people who do a good job to get promoted. That doesn't always happen, right? Well, Phil gets promoted, but we were exceedingly trepidatious for ourselves because we knew that we were not going to get another Phil. You just sort of know it when you meet a guy like this guy, right? We knew we weren't going to get another Phil, but we were hoping that maybe we'd get a guy close to Phil. And then in walks a guy named Bill. These are true names. These are true names. Bill walks in, and not only is he not like Phil, he is the anti-Phil. He's like the Antichrist. I mean, this guy was awful. I mean, in fact, that list of words that you had made me empowered and made me feel trusted and appreciated. If you put not in front of every one of those words, you'd describe Bill. That's the way he was. He was just terrible. And about 3 months go by, and suddenly people started to leave. I was one of the first ones, actually, that left. But person after person began to leave. It was kind of like that, what was that, The Sound of Music with the Von Trapp family, where the kids are going, goodbye, farewell, auf Wiedersehen to you. And then one would go off and another one would go off, and that's exactly what happened. One by one, they went off. And before you know it, everybody turned back. Who do you think left first? People with options or people with no options? People with options always leave first, always go first, because they have options. So organizationally, what bad leaders produce, what negative leaders produce, is they produce an effect that's kind of a double whammy. The good people leave, and the deadwood who you wish would leave do not leave. It's really a bad deal for everybody. So off goes Phil. And one of the things that we discovered, and honestly, it was because I write about it in the book. And by the way, we're going to send you a copy of the book. This is the book that we're talking about today. We're going to send you a copy of this for your own. So you bet. Yeah, sure. No, our pleasure. It's our pleasure. Hoo-wah! Hoo-wah. No, it's our pleasure. This is a treat. We appreciate being able to do this. Anyway, we're going to talk about happiness and positivity today. Okay, happiness happens to you all day, every day, all day long. Okay, it's a little different than positivity. You get up in the morning. You have a good night's sleep, up here, You go downstairs, you have a cup of coffee, you have a nice conversation with your spouse, all right, and then your 15-year-old daughter comes down for school dressed like a showgirl for Las Vegas. And then you're down here. You're thinking, you got to have the talk with her about appropriate attire. And then, you have some more fun and they talk, and she's out the door, and then your 12-year-old comes down when he doesn't have his homework done. This goes on all day long. You get on the beltway, somebody lets you in, somebody cuts you off, boom, somebody throws you the finger. It goes on and on. But this happens hundreds of times a day to you. But how you react to that and the way you perform under that, it depends on the vector in your life. If all those things, if everything in your life is suddenly kind of going down, you end up in this sort of negative vector. So this is a flat line, and you don't want to be flat line, in any respect of the word. Not a good place to be medically, right? But people, people whose vector is this way, don't you? Can I get a hoo-wah? Yeah, hoo-wah. And people who are like this, right? I used to have lunch with a guy who I didn't know at the beginning was one of these guys down here. And after about 2 or 3 months of going to lunch with this guy, I stopped going to lunch with him because this guy was it didn't matter what you told him. If you said we got to get this big pay raise, he said, yeah, but there's a lot of taxes you're going to have to pay on that. I'm going, yeah, but come on, it's still a pay raise, So when we talk about positivity, we're going to talk about it in the beginning about in respect to happiness. And let me talk a little bit about happiness just for a bit, and then we'll shift gears. Your basic happiness, and these are the first set of numbers that you'll see. based on a study done at University of Minnesota with identical twins, they determined that your set point for happiness, where you start off in life and your set point for happiness, depends upon, 50% depends upon your genetics, your parents. If your parents were not very happy people, you've got a 50% shot of not being as happy as other people. It doesn't mean you're going to be depressed for your whole life. It just means that your set point for happiness will be a little bit lower, just a little bit lower. All right? However, 10% of your happiness comes from all your life events. Now, I felt kind of cheated after Vietnam and being a platoon commander there, and being shot at and hurt. And I thought, I ought to get more than 10%. I ought to be able to blame more than 10% on it, right? I mean, I don't even get out of bed in the morning to go to a sale at Nordstrom's or wherever for less than 20%. So I'm thinking, I should get more than that here. 10% is all you get. So if you had a good life, you had rich parents, you had poor parents, it does not matter. Does not matter. I can actually tell you about a study that Harvard did that actually proves that. However, the big number here, the biggest number that you want to look at is this one, 40%. 40%. 40% of your happiness comes from the choices that you make every day. It's a choice that you have to be happy or a choice to not be happy. When you walk into the bathroom in the morning and you look in the mirror and you shave or you put on your makeup, or hell, maybe you do both. I don't know, and I don't really want to know. All I'm saying is when you go in there in the morning and you look in the mirror, when you look in the mirror, you make a decision. You can make a decision to have a good day or have a bad day. And this is pretty powerful stuff. And why is that important? It's important because Deloitte and Gallup, you've probably heard of both of those organizations, Deloitte and Gallup have done studies on how happy people are with their jobs. Happiness at your job translates into engagement, which translates into money. And that's what people are interested in who run companies, I can tell you, right? And so, as can all of you. Deloitte, the low point, so even if you take 20 or 30%, clearly 1/3 of the people working for you in your companies, only 1/3 of them are fully engaged. I'll give you another statistic you may not like. 18% are what we call actively disengaged. And these are people who are actually destroying your business. These are people who have to be either converted or fired. And you have to figure out, we'll show you some ways to convert them, and if that doesn't work, you're going to have to take other alternatives. But the reason it's important is that these people, your high performers, your highly engaged people, produce 30% more in the market. There's the CEO in the free world that wouldn't take 30%. Hell, there's the CEO that wouldn't take 5% more. But 30% is a big, big, big number. Big number. Important that people are happy on the job, doing what they're good at, being praised for it, being noticed for it. But as a manager, as a leader, when you walk in the door, people go from, depending upon their relationship with you, if a manager, how many of you have ever worked for managers that when they walked in the door, your heartbeat kind of went up, and not in a good way? Yeah. Okay, so what happens is this, and I'll just show it to you. We're going to do a little experiment here. A short one. Okay, so some of you may have to turn so you don't poke the other person in the head. But if you have to turn, if you can take your fingers and do this, put them out to the side, you should be able to see both of those fingers unless you have some mild glaucoma or some kind of ocular disease that I don't know about. Now, what I want you to do now is I want you to, and that's what you can, that's the breadth of your mind when you're at ease with the leader. That's how open you are to discussion, how open you are to change. That's how calm you are. Now turn two C's facing each other. Make two C's that are facing each other. Now, slowly bring those C's in front of you, and notice how much of the room, when you put it right in front of your eyes, how much of the room is blocked out now. I can no longer see this part of the room. I can no longer see this part of the room. I probably lopped off about 1/3 of the room. So let's consider that that's data. That's information for me to make a really wise decision. And I have just blocked off 30% of the good decision data. I make a lot of crappy decisions that way. And if you want a real life example, how many of you have ever bought a house or bought a car or a major appliance under pressure? I gotta buy a car because it's down, I gotta get to work, and it turned out to be a lemon? Yeah, it turned out to be a bad choice. It's because you didn't take enough time to get the data that you need to buy the car. Under pressure, you do this. And what leaders do, a good leader, a positive leader, opens the aperture and allows you to say things. It allows things to get done in the workplace, experiments to happen, words that get said that put people at ease. Whereas in a defensive organization, when people are afraid, when they're under pressure, when they're under fear, that aperture closes. You remember the movie, what was that movie where the dinosaurs ate the people? Jurassic Park, yeah, Jurassic Park. So if you remember Jurassic Park, there's one thing that I love in this. I also love to do Australian accents, so I'm going to do it. So you know, whether you want it or not, you know. There's a great scene in there where they brought in the scientist. He comes in with his girlfriend, and they're going to work on this project. And there's an Australian guy who's like the big hunter. He's got this huge gun. He's got the bush hat on, and he's trying to explain to the scientist how you hunt velociraptors. And he says, now, mate, he says, when you see a velociraptor down there, you know, about 75 meters away, he says, you look him in the eye, and he looks you in the eye, and you think, well, maybe I can outrun this sucker. He says, that's when you get killed from the one that comes from the side that you can't see. Because that's how pack animals hunt. Pack animals hunt. Wolves hunt the same way. They freeze you with the beta wolf. They send the beta wolf in, who's the smaller one, and they freeze you, and then the alpha comes in from the side and just clobbers you, you know. But if you think about quarterbacks who get blindsided because they focus too much on one area, they don't have that peripheral vision. If you think of that, that's what happens. That's the difference you can make as a leader. Negative leaders tend to produce this kind of thinking. Positive leaders produce this kind of leading, this kind of thinking. Okay, there were three major findings that we had in this. This is basically sort of a literature search of all the research that's out there. Okay, it's a meta-analysis, if you will. Okay, those of you that are academics, it's kind of a meta-analysis, but it's written in layman's terms. It's not written like an academic paper, because I can't even read half of those things myself. But we had three major findings. The first major finding that we had in all the literature that we found on what made people happy and moved them to positivity. The first major finding was that people needed to be social in relationships. Harvard has done a study that's the longest longitudinal study, I think, in the history of studies. 75 years. They tracked male graduates. Now, back in 1938, they were all male at Harvard, right? They tracked these guys for 75 years. Now, many of them, they started out with 724 of them. 64 of them, I think it's 64, 65, I may be off on one or two. 60 or so of them are still alive. And they've tracked them for all those years, and they've taken their medical records, they've taken their blood samples, they've done surveys with them on well-being, health, and all those sorts of things. And they basically have concluded at the end of the study that the thing that makes the biggest difference in people's lives is having strong social relationships with people. That is the single determinant. Not being underweight. Weight had nothing to do with it. Really, a lot of things that you think would determine whether you're going to live a long time don't really make the difference. The thing that made the biggest difference by far was how socially connected you were, not just the people you lived with, but how socially interactive you were with other people throughout the day. Even people who aren't really part of your close circle. So do you have a conversation with the guy that fixes your latte in the morning? Do you talk to the mailman? The more socially interactive you are, and the closer relationships that you have, the more likely you are to survive. They've done this with the Blue Zone people, the men that live, Sardinia. They have 10 times more people in Sardinia who live over the age of 100 than the United States. 10 times. And they're socially highly connected, all right? So this is the sine qua non. I mean, basically, if you don't want to think about anything else, just be socially connected, and your life is going to get better, all right? There's also a guy named Marcel Lasada. Lasada is a psychologist. Did a study on how people interact, and it's a complicated study, but basically, they coded interactions of many, many people, and they coded them as to whether they're positive, negative, or neutral. Right? And he developed what's called Lasada's line. And what he did was these are a series of ratios that will screw you up for the rest of your life. Because once you know these, you really have, you sort of keep these in mind as you start interacting with people. It's a good way to screw you up. So it's 1 positive to 1 negative, okay? For 1 positive to 1 negative, most of us would think that's kind of a neutral relationship. 1 positive interaction with your husband and wife or your friends to 1 negative, you think, well, it's pretty much a neutral relationship. Actually, it's not. It's actually a slow burn to disillusionment. If you see divorces where people get divorced after 20 years, sometimes even 30 years, or the kids leave the house or something like that, they suddenly get divorced. You think, what's going on there? That's what's going on. The person who doesn't like that, living like that, is the first person to go. All right? It's the first person to give up the relationship. 2 to 1, Losada found, is a flat line. And flat lines, as we mentioned before, 2 to 1 are hard to balance. It's hard to stay neutral. People either do this or they do this. That's the way it works. What he found, this is called Losada's line, is 3 to 1. Losada's line is called 3 to 1. It's actually 2.759 something or other, but they use 3 to 1 as a simple way to remember it. And 3 to 1 begins to elevate it into the positive zone. Now notice where my hand went. My hand didn't go like, hey man, this is great. You're going to win it with 3 to 1. You're not. You're going to have a positive relationship that will endure, but it won't thrive necessarily, especially if you're married. What about if you're married? All right, here comes the bad news, or not the bad news. I mean the sort of think about news kind of thing. It's 5 to 1. If you're married, you need to have if you want a positive, thriving relationship with your spouse or your partner, you have to have 5 positive interactions to 1 negative interaction. I coached one of the Navy SEAL team commanders from Norfolk, who was stationed up in Washington, D.C., and I got talking to him about these ratios, and he said that they use a ratio of 6 to 1. 6 to 1. Yeah, and if you ever dealt with these guys, and I had a long time dealing with them in the HRT team at Quantico, these guys would literally take a bullet for each other, and they do. They actually do. There's a kind of a love that they have that goes beyond anything you'll ever see in a workplace. 5 to 1. So let me tell you about a guy named John Gottman. Anybody ever hear of John Gottman? Not? Okay. So you might want to write this down. His name is John Gottman, G-O-T-T-M-A-N. And he if you're a tweeter and you're in the tweetosphere, which I am, he has a thing called the Gottman Institute. John Gottman is the leading expert in family and marital psychology. He's emeritus now. He just went emeritus a couple of years ago from University of Washington. He has what's called the Gottman Institute. They study marriages. If you're going to get married, or you're currently married, or even hang out with married people, you want to know about this guy. He's got really great data. It's so good that when he puts people in his lab, he'll have you in his lab for a couple. The 2 of you in the lab, your partners, the spouses, in a lab, and they'll give you scenarios to argue and talk about, and they video record you while you're doing this. At the end of 3 hours, and they analyze the data, they can predict whether you'll be married in 5 years at a 95% level. 95% is like gravity. I mean, that's like a law of nature. That's an amazing statistic. And Gottman has been working at this for years, and he has come up with, and this is the good news, he has come up with what he calls the 4 horsemen of apocalypse. All right? In marriages, the four things that destroy marriages. You might want to write these down. Okay, let me give them to you. These are really, this is probably one of the more important things I'll tell you about right now. The first thing Gottman talks about is criticism. Criticism. Amen. Can I get a hoo-ah? Hoo-ah, yeah. This is when you attack your partner, all right? You attack your partner, or you attack your partner's personality or his character. So you say, you're always leaving your stuff on. You never do this. You're always doing this. This is where you're always trying to make somebody else wrong and you right. All right? Generalizations like you never do this, or why are you such a slob, or whatever. Okay? It's that kind of thing where you're sort of, and criticism is like being nicked with a knife. It's going to make you bleed. It's not going to kill you. But if you do it enough times, it makes you bleed out. I mean, the old death of a thousand cuts. I mean, it's a kind of a gross analogy, but that's kind of what it's like. The second one is more like people stabbing you. This is pretty violent. This is called contempt. Contempt is attacking your partner's self-worth. This is where you have you're in an argument, but you no longer care about hearing people or being heard. You care about hurting people at this point. You've been in those arguments. Everybody's been in one before. You go beyond the point of even caring about hearing each other out. It's now I'm going to attack you and you attack me and I attack you back. Teenage girls are as good at contempt, doing contempt as anybody I know. They don't even have to say anything. They just go, oh, God. You know, and they just do all kinds of stuff. I had 2 of them. I mean, thank God they're grown. God, you know. No, I have great kids. But, you know, teenage girls are good at this stuff, right? That's contempt. Name calling. You're a slob. You're a jerk. You're an idiot. It's really, you know, it's like punching somebody or stabbing somebody. So criticism first, contempt second. Third thing is defensiveness. In relationships where there's a lot of defensive, a lot of a special blaming. Whenever you have blaming or bullying, and I'm not going to wax full political here, but wherever you have a lot of blaming or a lot of bullying, whatever else like that, you get a lot of that's a sign of defensiveness. When people are defensive, so people say they always make excuses. Well, the reason I didn't get to class on time was the wind was blowing out of the northwest at 3 miles an hour. I mean, I used to have a student every time he'd come in late, he'd have some new excuse. All right, that's a defensive measure. Cross-complaining, when people say, well, you know, you do this, but you do this. You know, whenever you get into that kind of world, you're into this world of defensiveness. How many of you have ever done performance appraisals before, where you're doing them for employees, and you always have that one employee you just, oh God, here she comes. You know, we know this is going to be a fight to the death. You give her 9 things she's doing well, and the 1 thing she's not doing. What do you mean by that? And suddenly you're into it. You know, and then you wish you'd give them a lower rating, right? Anyway, the last one is stonewalling. Stonewalling, where people withdraw from the discussion. They change the subject. They give you this, yeah, sure, whatever. That's the famous stonewalling statement. Those 4 things are the things that affect marriages more than anything else that Gottman's ever seen in his time of working with marriages. So at the end of when you get sort of like to a certain age, people start giving you these lifetime achievement awards kind of thing, and you know, I got one recently, and my acceptance speech was, I said, this is the one they give you before they put you in the home, you know. But John Gottman they did an article on Gottman, a similar kind of article where it was the end of his career. He's being interviewed by Harvard Business Review. By the way, if you don't get the Harvard Business Review yet, you should get it. It's $99 a year. It's the best investment you will ever make if you're really interested in leadership. I'm not even for the fancy, book itself, but for the database that's on the database you have access to. I use it all the time with clients. In fact, the client will call up with a problem, and I'm sitting there typing away in the database. You know, how do we handle remote teams? Oh, hold on just a sec. You know. Anyway, where was I? I'm sorry, I got waylaid there. Get me back on track.
Gottman, 4 Horsemen.
Oh yeah. So Harvard Business Review does a story on him, and the young fellow who interviews him in the story says to him, he says, Dr. Gottman, you've been doing this stuff for 40 years. And he said, I've been married for 4 years, and I want to stay married for a long time. Can you tell me one thing that I can do that will kind of ensure that? Gottman thinks about it a little bit and he said, I'll tell you what. He said, here it is. I want you to think of a large salt shaker with a bunch of yeses in it. And when your spouse comes to you, or your kids come to you, or anybody comes to you, especially your spouse, saying, I want to talk about getting a new car, or I want to talk about a new house, or I want to talk about whatever. He said, you just sprinkle yeses all over it. So the guy says to him, what do you mean? You know, I'm going to say yes to everything? Gottman says this. He says, you say yes to the conversation. You never say no to the conversation. You don't necessarily have to say, oh, yeah, we'll go run and buy a new car. Like your 16-year-old comes to you and says, hey, let's buy a new car, Dad. You say, sure, let's talk about it. Okay, how are we going to do that? How are we going to finance it? What are we going to have to do? What are you going to have to do? What am I going to have to do? How are we going to say yes to the conversation? Ever hang around somebody or work for somebody or be married? And I'm not. This is not. Don, I mean, not at all, no. But be married to somebody who is a no person, and you start off with no. Ever been to that one? Can I get a who? Anybody here? Yeah, who? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really a lot of work to get to 0, you know, and to get anywhere above it is almost impossible. Gottman's advice, that's the best piece of advice I can give anybody. If you're married, you're dating, you're going to get married or whatever, Gottman's advice about saying yes is really a smart thing. Think about it next time you interact with your spouse and they want to do something that you don't want to do, and you say, you know what, yeah, let's try that. Let's do it. And see what starts to happen. Okay. At work, we do 360s. Our company does 360s all the time with clients. We have 3 of them going on right now. 360s are a bunch of interviews. You need at least 3 to 5 people being interviewed at each level except for the boss, and you segregate the information that comes out based on feedback from peers and so forth in direct reports. Only one thing I want to say about this in the interest of time is that the one that people pay the least attention to are their peers. And the reason people are usually good at kissing up, almost 100% of people are good at kissing up. They figured that out a long time ago. It's a survival technique, right? That's where the power is. That's how you survive. The good leaders are good at kissing up and kissing down. The great leaders are good at kissing 360. They kiss up, they kiss down, and they kiss across. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I will tell you, this is where most people have failings, is working with their peers. All right. The second big finding in the data, you have to work at things that you're good at if you want to be really, truly successful and highly productive. People tend not to be good at things they don't like to do, which is kind of a big duh. But how many times have you been put in a job where you're not working on your strengths and you're not successful and you don't like the job? This is where you get the 18% people who are actively disengaged when they're in the wrong job. There are several assessments that you can take. The ones that I would recommend are Strengths Finders. Is that thing working? Yeah. Strengths Finders, DISC, and maybe the MBTI. There are others out there, a lot of others out there. The one that I use a lot right now is Strengths Finders. If you haven't anybody here take Strengths Finders? Not bad. How many took MBTI? Yeah, a lot. And then how many took DISC? Any DISC? Yeah. If you haven't taken the Strengths Finders, take it. And have your spouse take it, or your partner at work. And then sit down and have a conversation about it. We do this a lot with teams, and we just have them sit down and talk about how they're different. And we do the same with the MBTI. I did some work on the MBTI. I wrote a book on writing an MBTI. It's amazing when you sit down and have a conversation about how you're different than me, and then suddenly the fights that you have suddenly get explained that, hey, you're different than me. You're not trying to be a jerk. You're just different than I am. You approach things differently. Take at least a couple of different assessments for different views of yourself. 80-20 is the rule. If you want a job to be successful, you want to be successful at a job, really successful, truly successful in a career, you've got to be spending about 80% of your time in a high positive, what's called the high positive, doing things you really love to do, and getting really, really excellent at those by practicing over and over and over again. Nobody ever got great trying to do things that they were trying to do things they were bad at. If you can't hit a baseball but you can catch really well, practice catching, because that's where you're going to make your name in baseball. Don't practice. If you're a pitcher, if you're a great pitcher, don't practice a lot of batting. I mean, if you want to, that's great, but practice becoming a superb pitcher. Don't try to convert people. This is not a smart move. Right? And a lot of managers try to convert you to them, and that's the last thing they need. If you ever want to build a business, I help a lot of people start up businesses, and the one thing I tell them is just don't try to partner with somebody just like you, because you'll have a blind spot in your business that you can drive a truck through. I mean, Donna and I could not be more opposite, but it's the greatest partnership. I mean, not just marital stuff, but work stuff. She runs the business. She runs the business part of the business. I hate I hate taxes and stuff like that, and she's great at that stuff. I like to be out and doing stuff, and she'd rather have me doing that. Good partnership. Hoo-ah for Donna, right? Hoo-ah. 80%, 20% of all jobs suck. All right? 20% of all jobs suck. You just got to do them. You got to do taxes. You got to do this. You got to do that. So expect that. I had a woman who's a CEO of the Americas for an international company who was a client of mine, and she came in for coaching, and I was told about this 80-20 rule. She says, "Well, I have that in my job." I said, "Well, congratulations." And she said, "No, it's the other way around." I said, "Oh God." She was out of that job in 6 months. She's now teaching at the University of Wyoming, having a great time, making a tenth of what she used to make, but having a great time. She's poor, but having a great time. When it comes to work, there's a study done out of Yale that people look at work 3 different ways. People look at work 3 different ways. First of all, people look at work as a job, a J-O-B, a J-O-B. They're what I call 9-to-5ers. They look at the clock all day long. They walk through and they look up and go, 3 o'clock. 3:05. 3:10. I mean, that's what all day long, they're looking at the clock. How does the clock work then? Does it go fast or slow? Always goes slow. When you hate what you're doing, it always goes slow. These people will quit on a dime. In fact, if you offered them an RC Cola and a moon pie, they would be gone from your employment. These folks are only in it for the money. They're not usually engaged in what they're doing. They don't like what they're doing because it's not what they're good at. They're doing it to make a living, okay? The second, and by the way, one of the studies that they did on this were hospital workers in intensive care units that mop the floors. That actually mop the floors. And I'll tell you a quick story about one in a second. But people who are career folks, these people they don't look at the clock, they look at the calendar. These people look at the calendar. They're interested in all right, I'm here now, I'm assistant vice president, I want to be a vice president, then an associate executive vice president. That's why you see so many of these levels at companies now. There's like 700 levels. There's like more damn vice president. You go to a bank and everybody's a vice president in the bank. The guy that opens the door is a vice president or something. Because they want to have these places that you can ascend to, because it's like video games, right? You want different levels, and you have to have those levels to keep people engaged. The third level is the level of calling. And these are people who are working because they love what they do. They love it. They couldn't imagine themselves doing anything else. I'm here. I don't care about the calendar. I'm not trying to get promoted. I don't want to take over a company. I just want to keep doing this until I can no longer do this. All right? And that's where you find people who are at the top of their game. And I'm not saying that that's where I am. I'm just saying these are people who just keep wanting to do this stuff even better and better and better. They're not looking to leave you. As long as you let them work at areas that they're good at, you take care and feed them, you appreciate them, or you give them the tools that they need, they'll stay with you forever. All people want, this is a book Teresa Amabile out of Harvard Business School, wrote a book called The Progress Principle. All people want at work, this is what she determined after hundreds and hundreds of companies, all they want at work is to know that they're making progress on a daily basis, making regular progress towards something. It doesn't have to be astronomical progress, but so if you're a leader who can facilitate that progress being made, they'll love you. If you're one that doesn't, they'll hate you. Just help me don't be an obstructionist letting me do my job. Can I get a hoo-ah? All right, there we go. All right, this is the last section now. We're gonna run maybe a little bit over today, but that's okay. They gave me permission to do that. So we may go to 3:15, but if we don't, we don't. I want to talk to you about the last finding that we had. So the first finding was social network, and the second finding was finding your strength at work. The third big finding was that if you practice certain psychological and physical activities every day, as often as you can, that your mental health will be, and your positivity will grow and your mental health will be more stabilized. Watch this. The first one, and this is the most important one, this is one you got to make me a promise on. You got to try this tonight. It's the only thing I want you to try, that I want you to agree to, and is to try this one. This is the most important. This is the best piece of research I think I've ever read. Okay, Marty Seligmann at the University of Pennsylvania is probably, arguably, he was the head of the American Psychological Association. He's arguably one of the best psychologists in the country. He's been guys who've been working with post-traumatic stress folks from, Afghanistan and Iraq and all that. He is himself he was depressed himself in his life, and he studied this stuff for years and years. And he came up with an experiment that he did with people who were on medication, on serious medication, and in bed. I mean, that kind of depressed. We're talking clinical stuff. We're not talking about just, hey, I'm having a bad day. And he got them, and this experiment, he did a controlled experiment, but basically the experiment ended up being this, that he put people on this sort of diet of every day at the end of the day, before bed at night, to write down 3 things for which they were either grateful for or 3 things that went well that day. That's it. 3 things they were either grateful for or went well. I've been doing this now for 5 years. I almost brought my notebook today because I brought it down to the hotel. I always take it when I travel. And every night I write down 3 things that went well. And I think it's made a big difference in my life. Again, I've been doing it for 5 years. I do it every night. And the way to do it is to get a little, I got one of these, you don't have to do this, but you get, I got a little CV. I go old school with this one because I like to actually write it down. I went to CVS and bought a little notebook, one of those 99-cent, $1.50 things, and I put it on my medicine cabinet, right at eye level, right where my dental floss is. There's my dentist over here. My dental floss. Yeah, not you. Where my dental floss is, and it's right underneath my Lipitor. I got to take the Lipitor every night. So when I take the Lipitor down, I take this down. I do it every night because it's right there. It's part of a habit, and I do it every night. I guarantee you, if you start doing this tonight and you do this for 30 days, you will see a marked change in how you view life. The actual data says 15 days, but I like to go 30. 15 days is what his data says. I just say go 30. Do 30 and see if people don't start noticing how different you are. Write it down. If you do it, and the reason you do it before bed, excuse me, sorry about that, is because it relaxes you before you go to bed. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, so everybody going to do that tonight, right? I'm sorry about my throat. All right, so 3 things before you go to bed that you're either grateful for or that went well. The reason I don't do grateful for anymore is because after about a week of doing what I'm grateful for, I keep saying the same thing over and over again. But every day, I keep thinking back, wow, that was cool. It was cool being Mary Wash today. We had a great time. Great dinner. I was going to have a great dinner. I'll write this stuff down. You'll be there tonight. You'll be in it. Yeah, you'll be by the Lipitor. Yeah, I brought my Lipitor with me, I can tell you. But it's very important that you do this every night, and you do it before bed because it relaxes people. One of my clients was Washington Gas, and I was doing a bunch of their executives. And one of the guys, 2 weeks after I did this, he sent me an email and said, hey, I had my wife doing this at night. My wife's been an insomniac for 30 years. He said, she's now sleeping through the night. Not completely, but he said she was used to get 3 or 4 times a night, and he said it was driving me nuts. Now she only gets up about once or twice a night. It's because of that, because it relaxes you. And it also gives you a filter to look at the world. Believe me, if I told you every night, write down 3 crappy things that happened to you today, after about a month, you'd be pretty depressed. Because you can either look at this room and say, this is a wonderful room, or you can say, oh, geez, a little bit of dirt over here. This could be shinier. Oh, come on. It's a perspective kind of thing. This is the one I would suggest. If you have not tried this, I would get yourself to do it. I would get your kids to do it. And if you got really smart pets, I'd get them doing it as well. Okay. Kindness. One of the things we found is that kindness is a measurable psychological aspect. This is something you can actually measure. And Sonia Lyubomirsky at the University of California has done a lot of work with kindness. And what they found is if once a week you do 3 to 5 things, you do 3 to 5 things on one day that's premeditated ahead of time, and you actually go do them. Like I'm going to give a big tip to the coffee guy tomorrow, and I'm going to do this. You actually do it in a premeditated way. It really spikes your happiness level, and it also spikes how you think about yourself. You start to think about yourself as a decent, kind person. All right. I have done all kinds of wacky experiments with this. I mean, in my own life, and I'm going to tell one now that Donna maybe not like. So here it is. So we have double beds. We can always, yeah. Okay, we're in the Hyatt, so big ones. So, I love Donna to the end of the earth, okay? But she has this quirk. She has this little quirk. She loves cash. So when we go to the beach every year, and she always gets about $500, $600, $700 in cash, usually in 20s. And then she splits the cash in half and gives me half of the cash. Yes, you do. Yeah, come on. She splits this cash in half. It's kind of like the president and the vice president can't fly in the same plane. She splits the cash in half in case one of us gets killed along the way. We'll still have $250. She gives me this money. Always in 20s, and I stuff it in my wallet, and I'm like George Costanza. I got this huge wallet like this that I can hardly fit in my pocket, and I take it, and I really don't say anything. I just take it up there, and I usually end up spending about $20 because most of it I do in credit card and stuff. So this one time we come back. Every morning I write at a place called, it's now called Pete's. It used to be Caribou. But every morning I write at this place, and I do it, like if I wasn't here this morning, I'd be there writing. I write for an hour and a half, every 2 hours every morning. And it's just a thing I do. And so I had all this money in my wallet, and I walked in. This Mike is the coffee guy there. He's kind of a grumpy guy, but he's a big guy with a beard. He's kind of like this. And so I had all this money, and I said, hey, Mike, we're going to do a little experiment this morning. Here's $50. Here's $50. I said, I want you to buy coffee for as many people as, it will cover, which is about 4 or 5 people, But anyway, I said, 50 people get these like super duper latte foam whatever. So I said, just don't tell them who gave it to it. I just want to observe. So I sit back, and now the barista's table's like over here. I'm sitting here typing. I can hear what people are saying, and I'm observing people, and they're saying, hey, this is really cool. We got free coffee this morning. Yeah, it's a great way to start the day. I mean, it was really kind of fun listening to them. And at the end of it, about the 6th or 7th customer, I started noticing Mike changing the way he looked. He was like smiling more, and he was saying stuff like, have a good day. And he never said stuff like that. And he's like really a grumpy guy. And so I said, so Mike, how much we got? He's about $3. I said, here's 50 more. Apologies. I said, I give him 50. I said, here's 50 more. But I switched the experiment now. I stopped observing Mike. I stopped observing the customers, and I started observing Mike. And it was the damnedest thing. He started to he started not only smiling, he started to ad lib. He said, our donor would like you to have a good day. I'm going, donor? I never said donor. What the hell is this donor stuff? And he goes, and at one point he said, our donor would love you to have a good day, a great weekend, and he would like you to pass it along. Pay it forward, he said. Pay it forward. That's what he said. And I said, pay it forward? What the hell is this, a novel? I just said, give him the coffee, Mike. They replicated this very experiment at Harvard, at the B school, at the business school. They give half the class, I've forgotten how many people were in their class. They give half the class $10, and they said, spend this on yourself today, and we're going to ask you a question when you get back. They give $10 to the other part of the class. They said, take it out and do something for somebody else. And when they came back and they did a score sheet on them and they did self-reports, the people who gave it to other people had a much better day than the people who gave it to themselves. Right? This stuff has been replicated over and over and over again. I'm going to, let me tell you one. I'll tell you one more story. Okay, one story, and then so my whole life I was an FBI agent, and most of our life I was an FBI. You don't make a lot of money as an FBI agent. You always have a house and a roof over your head and a car. But I never had a real expensive car. Mercedes-Benz or anything like that. I always had a Honda we kept for like 15, 20 years. We'd give it to one of the kids. They would crack it up. We'd have to get a new car. But that was basically my life for the first 30 years of our marriage. And then finally I got into business and I started making some money. Enough to be comfortable. And I finally decided, after prodding for my eldest daughter, to buy a kind of a nice car. And I've always wanted to get another convertible. I had a convertible when I was 16 years old, it was a beat up thing, and I wanted another one. This is like 40 years later or whatever, and my daughter forces me to go down. We go to the BMW deal. I buy this BMW hardtop convertible, which is the coolest car in the free world. I got to tell you, it was a James Bond car, if you remember, one of the series. It folds in 3 pieces. The thing goes. It's like it goes from a coupe to a convertible on there. First night I got it, I'm in the car going. Donna says, "Honey, come in for dinner." No, one more time. Coolest car I've ever had in my life. But I got to take it to the. I got to take it to the BMW dealer. For years, we've been taking our cars to KC Auto. And the KC Auto is the kind of place, a real old-time auto place. You can go back there, you can spit on the floor, you can swear, you can talk to the guys, you can bring them a coffee, and you can watch them work on your car. And it's really a guy's. This place is pristine. You walk in, and it's like, this guy sidles up to you and goes, "Dr. Gladys, nice to have you with us today. I see your car." And this guy knew my life history. I think he even knew my blood type. From this fob you have in your car. Like, holy crap, what is all this? Goes in, they fix my car, and on the way, this was on a Wednesday, and every Wednesday I do a thing called Kind Wednesday. If you want to link to me on LinkedIn, we put 3 pieces of research out almost every day of the week. If you're linked to me on LinkedIn, you'll get a ton of this research. Anyway, every Wednesday I put this thing out to do something kind every Wednesday, to sort of brand as Kind Wednesday. So it was Wednesday, and I decided, since I wasn't going to probably get to meet the guy that was working on my car, I'd write him a little note. Don, I'll never forget it. Don had these blue sticky notes, so I took one and I wrote just a simple note to the guy. "Hey, have a great day. Today's Kind Wednesday. I hope you I appreciate work on my car and all the work that all the education it must have taken for you to get there. Something silly. I stuff it on the dashboard. They bring my car out. It's washed. KC's, I was hoping that they wouldn't have cigar butts on the floor, right? This thing's washed and vacuumed. I'm thinking, whoa. As I get in the car, I'm driving home and I get a phone call. And it's the service manager. He says, "This is Dr. Gladys." I said, "Well, yeah, it is, but I don't use that often." He said, "Well, thank you for bringing your car here for service." He said, "I just want to tell you how touched the mechanic was." He said, he brought me the note. He said, I think the kid was near tears. I said, "Geez, this kid's had a rough life." He said, "No." He said, he's showing it to other people. He stuck it up on his bulletin board. 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds to write that note. This kid, this made a real deal happen in this kid's head. This is the kind of stuff that happens when you just simple things. People buying coffee for people behind them in line. You don't have to do big stuff. It doesn't have to be expensive stuff. You can just say, thanks for your service. Thanks for what you're doing. Not a big deal. Optimism. Every morning, if you write down 3 things that you're optimistic about happening that day, according to the research and my experience, you have a 90% better chance of this happening than if you never did it yourself, than if you never wrote it down. Doesn't mean it happens 90% of the time. It just means you have a 90% better chance of it happening. My experience is you have about a 70% chance of it actually happening. Every time, I could go through my notebook and show you day after day after day after day where those predictions have actually happened. And in first world countries, it's pretty easy for that. It's much easier than a third world country. But I can tell you, in this world, you guys have a lot of control over what happens in your day. Starting off with optimism, studies on longevity and things like that based on optimism are through the roof. I won't spend a lot of time on this because I want to spend a little time on the physical stuff, but Barbara Fredrickson at University of North Carolina, who's if you haven't ever heard her speak, Barbara Fredrickson is a wonderful speaker on this stuff. And she talks about, her book that she just wrote is called Love 2.0. What she says basically is this. When you are in a conversation with somebody and somebody is actually listening to you and listening to you like they really care, they really give a damn, that you walk away, you actually develop with that person a loving relationship in that moment. It's truly a loving relationship. I mean, oxytocin is given off in your bloodstream. You actually breathe differently through a thing called vagal breathing. It actually changes the way you physically interact. I mean, it's incredible. And for that moment that people are actually listening to you deeply, you are actually in love with that person. And I don't mean it's that kind of love. I mean it's a kind of an interpersonal agape sort of love. And it's something that, well, it's interesting. When I teach coaching, I don't have a chance to do it, but when I teach coaching to groups of people, I actually show them how to coach. And the first exercise I do is that one I did with you about the best leader and all those traits. And after they coach, I said, and they have this conversation with each other, I say, hey, how did it feel to be listened to, really listened to and cared for? And write down 3 words about how it makes you feel. Guess what? Those lists are identical. Those lists are identical. Great leaders and having somebody listen to you are absolutely identical. Okay? All right, the last bit here, and then I'll let you go, is sleep. Finish installing updates. All right, well, let's install those damn updates right now. That's okay. Not a problem. We'll work around it. 7 to 8. You need 7 to 8 hours. 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. If you're not getting that now, you want to try to get 7 to 8 hours. That should be your goal. You should try to get to bed at 10 o'clock and get up at 5 or 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. You just figure 7 to 8 hours and try to target that, because you will lose weight. It is more important to sleep than if it becomes between getting your 8 hours of sleep and working out is more important than working out. It is singly probably the most important physical activity you do in the day. I can't show you this right now, but I will tell you, if you go to, you ever hear of TED Talks, right? If you go to TED Talks and you Google or you search for sleep, there are 2 neuroscientists that talk about sleep and what actually happens when you sleep. And basically what happens is and you should watch them both. But what happens when you sleep is your brain actually, the only time your brain flushes out with all the detritus in it from the cellular molecular activity, the only way and the only time it flushes out is when you're asleep. It's the only time it happens. It does not happen. That's why if you have a bad night's sleep and you walk around going, God, I feel like a zombie, you are. You've got a bunch of crap in your head, literally. I mean, you've got a bunch of cell detritus in your head that needs to come out, and it will not flush out because you don't have a limbic system in your brain. You have a limbic system in your body that does this all day long, but you don't have it in your brain because your brain is confined. They'll show you the physiology in this particular thing. It's pretty good. So big stuff. 7-8 hours. Okay. Move 150 minutes a week minimum. This is if you want to just be alive. All right, be alive. You want to be alive and be relatively healthy. 150 minutes a week is what you have to do. And if you walk like this, like you're late for a meeting, that's enough. That's enough. You don't have to run a marathon. You don't have to just walk like you're late for a meeting. I'm not going to get into this one because it's basically calorie counting. All I'm saying, all this slide means is this. You're going to have, as you get older, you're going to have to modify your diet, or you're going to be fat. That's it. That's it. Fruits and vegetables. We all know what the hell it is. Fruits, vegetables, and stuff you don't like, right? And my friend in the FBI used to say, if it tastes good, spit it out. Yeah. But if you don't pay attention, you're going to end up with diabetes. You're going to end up with stuff you really don't want. I've been on Weight Watchers for the last 3 years. It is me and 30 women. Usually one other guy. Like two of us, and there's like 30 women talking about ways you can cook chicken. The last thing is meditation. We just did a book on this idea of mindfulness. If you haven't tried meditation yet, I highly recommend that you give it a shot. Just 2 minutes a day, 3 minutes a day, or as my partner at George Mason, Beth Cabrera, says, do as little as you can do, but do it every day. Do it at the same time every day, make it part of your routine, and just sit and breathe. There's nothing fancy about it. Just sit and concentrate on your breathing. If you get interested in it, there's all kinds of apps that you can get for phones, but you have to get in the habit of it. The habit is what makes it work. It's not just doing it, it's the habit of doing it. So it becomes, I did it today, I did it early today, I did a half an hour, and I did 15 minutes before I came into the stage, kind of re-energize and get refocused, okay? Very important to your health and really your longevity. I'm sorry for rushing through this piece, but I just wanted to make sure you got everything. I want to end by, first of all, thanking Mark and his crew for doing such a great job. We'll get you this book in the next few weeks. Once we'll get it down here and get it shipped out to you. But let me end on this last piece, okay? It's called The Tale of Two Wolves, and it goes like this. There's an old Cherokee chief who goes out into the woods with his young grandson, and he says to the grandson, he sits on a log, and he says to the grandson, he said, there's a fight going on inside of you and me and everybody. It's a fight between two wolves. And the little kid looks up at him, about 10 years old. He says, Grandpa, two wolves are fighting inside of us? Yeah, he said, the grandpa, the old Cherokee chief says, yeah, the wolf is fighting inside of every one of us. Right? And one wolf is evil. And he's hate, he's envy, he's anger, he's regret, he's greed, he's self-pity, he's arrogance, superiority, self-doubt, and ego. And the other wolf is the opposite. The other wolf is, he's good, he's joy, he's peace, he's love, he's faith, he's hope, he's compassion, he's truth. And the little kid looks at me and said, well, Grandpa, which wolf will win? And the old man looks at him and says, the wolf you feed, my son, the wolf you feed. So that's my challenge to you. Which wolf are you going to feed? Thanks very much, guys. Thank you.